what is online marketing and how can it increase your sales? So thanks for attending this webinar. We're actually going to be doing about 4 webinars in our series here, and we're going to do one about every other month or so. And as with this one, I'm going to send you an email and let you know when the other ones are coming up. But it's a fair amount of information. We don't want to overload you with too much at once, so we want to do these in little spurts for you so that you can learn a little bit, come back from that, and then be ready for some more information. So a couple of things we're going to be looking at moving forward, though, are the different kinds of marketing services that are available out there, how those actual marketing services work, and some things that are really important are what is a reasonable marketing budget, and of course, should you be doing this yourself or should you be getting help? And those are always questions that we're asked all the time, and so we want to really make sure that those are covered for you. Today, we're really going to look at what is online marketing, so an overview. And we also want to do a self-assessment, so we want to show you how you can see how you're doing online with your website and your online presence. And today, we're actually going to talk a little bit about a reasonable marketing budget and whether you should be doing that on your own. So, as you know, there's a chat feature that you can use. So if you do have any questions, certainly use the chat feature and ask me those questions, because we really want to try to finish this in the 30 minutes. I'm going to take a look at all of those questions at the end, and then I'll answer any of those as we go along. A little bit about me. My name is Rob. I've been working for Robinhood Technology for over 7 years now. And if you do need to get in contact with me, you can contact me at rob@robinhoodtech.com. And of course, this phone number here where you can reach me as well. So as there's things that come up in the webinar or just in terms of what we do in general, this is how you can reach me. I'll put this up again at the end. So in case you don't have a chance to scribble this down now, you'll be able to contact me. A little bit about us, Robinhood Technology. We've been serving businesses for over 10 years by providing websites and marketing services to different businesses. So as you may have seen before, we're some geeks and some nerds, and if you put us all together, we are Robinhood Technology. And as you know, we've had the privilege of working with Phantom Screens for over 5 years as part of the web program. We really love you guys. We've been to a few of your events and your conventions. We actually think you're all a little bit crazy, which is okay because we're the same, so I think we align well. But we really love what you do, and it's been a real passion for us to be able to work with you and to be able to work with the different distributors as part of the MyWeb program. And little plug for the MyWeb program. So the MyWeb program that we do with Phantom is essentially we create websites for the different Phantom Screens distributors. And as well as what we're doing today, we're doing some marketing education. Because having a website on its own is great, but if no one's going to that website, it's like having a really fantastic novel that you spent a lot of time on writing, but no one's going to read it. So you want to make sure that people are going to that website. And as you know, a website really is the backbone of your entire online presence. So all of the marketing initiatives that you're doing should be directing people to your website. And if your website isn't strong, if it's not a strong presence online, if it doesn't look better than your competitors, and if it doesn't show you as the expert in retractable screens, then all the energy you're spending in your online marketing isn't really going to go anywhere. You're going to lose that. So online marketing should be directing people to your website, should be generating leads for you, and those leads, based on the fact that you guys are really good salespeople, are then converted into sales. A little bit, again, just we have been working with over 35 distributors as part of the MyWeb program, and would love to work with you guys as well. You can learn more about the MyWeb program here at phantom.robinhoodtech.com. So that's a shameless plug for the MyWeb program. I've got control of the screen here, so I guess I get to say it as many times as I like, but we're glad that to be able to do this presentation for you on behalf of that program. So jumping in, so what is online marketing? And this is exactly what a lot of people think it is a bunch of question marks, because it's difficult. It's difficult to understand. unless you're really immersed into that world. And it's really scary for a lot of people. And especially as distributors, your focus is really on installing your Phantom screens. And it's difficult to try to capture all of these other aspects of a business sometimes, including what marketing is. So you've probably heard a lot of marketing lingo in your comings and goings. So you've got organic search results, you've heard about search terms and this thing called SEO and SEM landing pages, Google AdWords, Facebook ads, PPC, blogs, email marketing, social media, and I could probably do another 10 or 15 slides of all the other marketing lingo terms that you've heard. And so the hard part is what are they all and how do you put them all together? And a lot of times in working with the different distributors, we know that that some of you are actually really good at your marketing and have spent a lot of time in doing that. And then there's others that have spent some money, but you're not really sure what the results are or what you're getting from that. And oftentimes you're spending money and you're getting a little bit of money in return. And so you're not really sure why you should be doing this and if it's actually even making a difference to your bottom line. And as you know, as we speak with a lot of distributors, the big thing, of course, is that I just want to install Phantom screens and I don't want to have to worry about all of these other things. So we hear you. We know how you feel about that. Having worked with so many of you, this webinar series really is about helping you feel a little bit more comfortable with what marketing online is and what marketing services are and which ones are the ones that would benefit you. So jumping in here, what is online marketing? So online marketing is a form of marketing and advertising which uses the internet to deliver promotional marketing messages to consumers. So that's a really fun definition. Really, if I break it down, is that it is really advertising on the internet could actually equal sales for you, happy face. So if you're getting sales from your online advertising, then that's a good thing. And I say could. The reason why I say could is because just because you're doing marketing doesn't actually mean that it's generating sales for you. There's effective marketing and there's ineffective. So let me just change the definition here a little bit, is that smart, strategic, effective marketing increases your chance of good sales. So the whole point of doing marketing is that you want it to be smart, strategic, effective, and the more those three things are in place, then the better chance is that you will be getting some good benefit from it. So effective marketing essentially is that you want to be able to put in a reasonable amount of money and you want to be able to get out a good return on your investment. And that's what effective marketing should all be about. But as I said, often is the case where it's not effective marketing. You're guessing, you don't really know what to do. There's no strategy that has been really established, and you're not necessarily always marketers, or you don't have anyone on staff who's a marketer. So there's some inexperience at play here, and as a result, you're really just trying to guess at what you should do and figure it out, and that of course equals a sad face, because you're not making the money that you could be doing from it, and you certainly don't want to be wasting that money. So the question, of course, is where do I begin in this huge world of online marketing? And it's a great question. Often it comes up to us as, should I be doing it myself, or should I be getting professional help? And when I say professional help here, I'm not talking about a psychiatrist, although that might be helpful. More so professional help in terms of a marketing agency. So should I be doing my own marketing, or should I be working with a marketing agency? And it's a great question, and it's going to come down to a couple of specifics that we're going to look at in just a minute. So but before we do that, we want to take a look at exactly how you're doing online. So, you have a website. Most of you have websites out there, but you really don't know how that website is doing and whether it's making a difference for you. And so there's a great way that you can do an online presence self-assessment to see where you are ranking online and if people are finding you. So again, I wasn't going to do too many plugs for MyWeb here, but just so you know, as part of the MyWeb program, we do have a thing called an online presence analysis, or an OPA. We call it the OPA. And what it is we'll actually go online, we'll take a look at your website, your social media, So your entire online presence, and we'll come back to you with a report card and we'll tell you what you're doing, which is great, and what are some of the areas that you may need to improve on. And then based on that, we'll actually be able to suggest the marketing services for you. And you can either do those marketing services yourself, or you can work with a marketing agency if you have an appropriate budget for them, and we'll talk about appropriate budgets in a few minutes. And so the online presence, again, is something that's part of your MyWeb program. Now, I've done that with a few of you already. It's included in your monthly price. We do it because having a good online presence is really, really important to you. So everyone in the MyWeb program should have it done. And if you haven't had it done, then definitely contact me afterwards and we'll set up a time to do that. The reason why we're able to do that for the MyWeb people is because we actually have access to all of your analytics. We've done the website, so we have all of those stats and information that we need in order to give you a good assessment. But if you're not part of the MyWeb program, that's okay. We can't do that same assessment just, again, because we don't have access to all of that information. But we certainly can talk to you in terms of if you are looking for a marketing agency to help you out, then we can actually talk to you, figure out where your budgets lie, suggest some things for you, and then get you connected. Some of you don't know this. Part of our business is actually a business where regular businesses come to us asking us what are the best marketing agencies to use. And so we have a whole division of Robinhood Technology that does that. So we match them up with marketing agencies. So we have a whole network of different marketing agencies that we work with. And we're able to take out a lot of the guesswork for you because we know the ones that are good and that have done well for clients in the past, and ones that haven't. So we're here and available for that service for you as well. So whether you're part of MyWeb or not, we're here for you, and we want to make sure that you're taken care of. All right, so jumping back to how you're doing online. So one of the easiest ways to figure out how you're doing online, and anyone can do this, and so I'm going to have you guys do this. I'm going to show you how I'm going to do it right now. And that is actually just doing a search for retractable screens in your area. So I'm in Toronto, just outside of Toronto, and I'm in Google right now, and I have just typed in the term retractable screens. There's a lot of different terms that you can use, patio screens, hidden screens, phantom screens. But most people, if they're looking for retractable screens, a lot of them will know phantom screens, but a lot of them won't as well. So I like to use a really generic term that a lot of people seem to know. So I'm using retractable screens here right now, and I'm looking at my search results, and I can see that I've got some ads that are showing up. You can see the ads because there's a little ad box here that says, well, it says the word ad in it, so that's a good indicator. And I can also see Google is spitting out a little map here based on where I am. So we're just outside of Toronto, and I can see that there's two locations that they're pointing me to right now. One is Phantom Screens, which is great. This is actually Stephen Atfield's site, so Phantom Screen Solutions, Ontario Screen Solutions, and then some competition here. And then I can see down here, these are called organic search results. And these are basically search results based on how good your website is and how good Google thinks that it is in terms of how relevant it is to this search term that we've used up here. So Google says that when someone types in retractable screens, that this website here is the most relevant for that. And again, congratulations to Stephen. This is Ontario Screen Systems. So phantomscreens.ca, so they're showing up here. Again, sorry, shameless plug for MyWeb. They are actually part of MyWeb as well, so we're glad that their website is doing well. They're also doing some other marketing services as well on their own. I think some Google AdWords, well, obviously some Google AdWords because I see them up here as well in the Google AdWords section. So they're doing a few different things, but you can see how just by me typing in retractable screens, I see them here as an ad. I see them here in the maps in the second position, and I see them here in the #1 position for the organic search results. So that's actually really fantastic. So again, congratulations to them for doing that. And now we can see that there's some of their competition here as well. So I'm just going to open up their site in a separate tab. I'm going to open up this one as well. And I'm going to open up this one as well. So it's great that Stephen's got his site doing as well as he has. But the big thing is that for all of the distributors who are out there, just because your website's showing up well in the rankings is a good thing. But if your website doesn't look better than your competition's, then it doesn't really matter, because just as a regular customer would, I'm now going to take a look at the different websites. So here's Stephen's site here, so Ontario Screen Systems. And I'm scrolling through. Right off the top, I can see there's a phone number here, so I can call them right away. In the middle of this video here, there's a request a quote, so I know immediately that I can request a quote from them. And if I scroll through, I can see they're talking about windows, doors, and large openings. So that's great. So that's good information that I'm going to dig into. I also know that if I click on one of these pages here, so the doors page, immediately I see there's a request a quote right here, and we still have that phone number. So that's great. Not only do they come up first, but the site looks pretty good, and I can call them right away. When I call them or request a quote, that's called a lead. When they respond to that lead and make a sale, that's called a sale. So that's exactly the pattern that we want to see. We want to make it as simple and as easy for customers to be able to find you and then to be able to contact you. So here's one of the other ones. So Dream Screens Canada. So I hope that's not offensive to anyone. I know that you're a competition. So not bad. There's a phone number there I can call, and I scroll down a little bit and I can see there's a page on here. Sorry, a form on here for me to fill out. So not bad. I'm biased, so I think that Stephen's website looks better. But you'll have to decide on your own. And then just the third one we're looking at here, so Vista 1. So again, competition here for different kinds of screens. So retractable screens as well. And there's a request a quote button up here, and I see there's a phone number down here. So all of three of these websites are not too bad. The question will always be for your customers is which website looks the best and which website makes you look like the expert. So again, having your website appear as the expert and look the most professional is going to be the biggest thing that you want in this. So just recapping again, we had some ads up here at the top. Stephen's showing up here in the second position. We've got a map up here, and they're in the second position there, and they're showing up number 1. So there's a whole bunch of different marketing services that went into why they're showing up where they are, and so we'll dig into a few of those. Jumping back to the presentation though, so do the same for yourself. Do retractable screen search in your area. Just type it into Google and go google.ca for us Canadians, google.com for us or you Americans. We're all together, so it's all a big us. And see where you appear. And so if you're not appearing up at the top, then that's something that you would want to have to take a look at, whether you're doing it yourself or a marketing agency. And just a couple of things here. Where you show up is called search engine optimization. It's a term that's used to look at a couple of these factors. So here's why Stephen is doing well as number 1 in the organic search results that we saw. First of all, he's got good content. It's relevant and meaningful. Google really, really wants you to have good, relevant content. The website loads quickly, so Google loves that as well. It's also mobile friendly, meaning that if he's looking at it on a PC or a tablet or a smartphone, it's going to show up really well. Google basically says if it's not mobile friendly anymore, then they're going to drop you in the ranking. So that's a big thing. Now we're getting into a few more technical terms here. Again, we'll explain this a little bit more in detail in other webinars, but backlinking means how many other websites out there are linking back to you. So if a whole bunch of websites are linking to you, then that means you're an authority. It means a lot of people find your website interesting and relevant, and so Google says, okay, well, if everyone's linking to your website, then that's important. So that's also going to affect your rankings. And then other things like a Google My Business page, and that's something we'll talk about in another webinar coming up. So there's lots of factors. The fun part is that these factors change all the time. So whether you're doing it yourself or whether you're working with a marketing agency, they have to keep up on top of why these things change, how they change, and then how best to optimize your website. And that's why it's called search engine optimization, to make sure that you rank well. Again, sorry, shameless plug for my web. 97% of our sites do end up usually on page 1 for a regular search for retractable screens in your area, and about 63% of those are ranking number 1. So that's really good. So just knowing that you are with my web, we're helping you get halfway there or 90% of the way there with your website. Okay, last plug for my web. There's a few other things that you can do as well when you're doing an online assessment. You can do another thing called SEMrush. And so here's SEMrush here. So it looks really confusing when you first jump in. And that's okay, because if we can help you interpret that a bit, and obviously if you're working with an agency, they'll help you. Just on Stephen's website here, phantomscreens.ca, I plugged it in, and it's giving me a whole bunch of information. And I can see how much traffic they're getting. I can also see, again, we're talking about those backlinks, all the different people that are linking back to them. And I can see some other really interesting things. I can see these things called keywords. If you haven't heard about keywords before, these are the things that people type in into a search engine for your website to show up. And as you saw, we just did that with the term retractable screens. But you can see here, Phantom Screens is a really, really popular one. So the Phantom brand is really strong, which means that people in his area know to look up Phantom Screens. And again, there's a lot of volume here, 29,000 results for that. So when I know that when someone types in Phantom Screens, there's a lot of volume, meaning a lot of people are doing that. And Stephen is showing up in the very, very first position for that. So that's fantastic. So that's good to know. I can also see who some of his competitors are. So I see phantomscreens.com as a competitor. That's a great competitor to have because they're also leading customers to you. But then you've got people like Home Depot and Lowe's and Rona and YouTube. A lot of people might have retractable screens videos on YouTube, different brands that are your competition. So some really great information here. And what you can do is you can take this information and you can start making smart marketing choices based on the information that's here. And again, it's a little bit overwhelming if you haven't looked at this before, but it's certainly something that if you're doing it yourself or if you're working with a marketing agency, that you want to make sure that you're looking at to start making some good choices. So one other one that I'm going to show you when you're doing a self-assessment is Google Analytics. So here's Google Analytics here, and Google Analytics is free, and you just need to have a Gmail account to create it. But look at all of the fun things that it's showing us here. So I can see the amount of traffic, so the amount of users that's coming to Stephen's site. I see there's 470 users in the last 7 days. You can also see that that's gone down by about 29%. So as a marketer or as someone doing it themselves, I want to ask right now, why is it that it's gone down? So let's talk about that. I see that he's got 2 active users on the website, which is interesting, but mostly I like to look at things like, for example, which pages are the most popular on the website. And I can see right now that door screens are really, really popular on the website. So that's great. So if I want to sell a lot of door screens, that's good. I know that it's popular. But if I really wanted to be focused on motorized screens, I can see it's a little less popular, obviously. So if I'm going to do some marketing and I really want to promote my motorized screens, now I know that that's something that I should be doing, because there's not as many people going to my motorized screens pages as there are my door screens. And if I really wanted to be pushing my window screens, I might want to do a Facebook campaign or Google ads that really focus on my window screens. So as you can see here, we're starting to develop a story about not only how the website's doing, but what people are looking at. And another one I love looking at, location overview. I can see for Stephen, he's got a ton of traffic coming from Canada. That's pretty good because he's in Canada. But I want to drill down even farther, and I can see which cities these people are coming from. So Stephen, I think you're in Mississauga, but I see you're getting a lot of traffic from Toronto. And I also see that you're getting a fair amount of traffic from Mississauga, Oakville, etc. You're even getting a little bit from Vancouver, so that might be the head office folk looking at your website. So, but if Stephen decided that he really wanted to focus on Ottawa, he can see that because he's not getting as much traffic in Ottawa, let's do a Google AdWords campaign to really focus on Ottawa, or a Facebook campaign to really focus on Ottawa and get those numbers up. So not only do you need to have the website, but you really need to understand the analytics behind it. And Google Analytics is great for that. It's also actually almost absolutely crazy. For instance, I can tell in Google Analytics demographics, meaning, here's one. So what's the average age of people coming to your website? So right off the top, I can see it's 35 to 44-year-olds. And I know that of those, it looks like that it's mostly males as opposed to females. So why is this happening? Do I need to change content on my website? Do I need to be focused towards a different audience? So these are all of the things that you gain from this. So I don't want to overwhelm you with all of these stats, but what I do want you to understand is that there's a lot you can learn from that. And whether you're doing it yourself or working with a marketing agency, this is the stuff that should be looked at and understood, because this is going to bring you insights. And when you have insights about who's coming to your website or who you want to come to your website, that'll help you make better marketing choices. And when you make good marketing choices, you have a better chance at increased sales. Happy face. So that's how marketing should be working. So effective marketing. So how do you put all of this together so you make good marketing decisions? Again, it comes back to the question we asked a few minutes ago. Should you be doing this yourself, or should you be working with a professional marketing agency or professional help? And answer to that is it really depends. Do you have expertise in-house already? I know a lot of the distributors do have a marketing team or marketing people on there, and they're doing a fantastic job, and they're doing all of these things. But some of you, you don't have those people on staff, and so you really do need someone outside of your own business to be able to do that. And if you want to bring people in, do you really have the time to learn these skills? And I guess the question I always like to ask distributors is, should your customers install their own phantom screens? And I believe Esther's still on the line here, so you should all be saying no, absolutely not. And the reason why is because you really want to have a trained professional install those phantom screens so that they're done right and that they work for you. And so we do suggest the same thing when it comes to marketing. We suggest that you use trained and experienced professionals so that not only do you spend an appropriate amount of money doing it, but that you're also getting good results on that. And your focus, of course, should be on great phantom screens installers, which you already are, I'm sure. Oh, I just see Esther left a message here saying good answer. So that's good. So we're all in alignment. Next question, of course, is so what's a good marketing agency? You've heard of people being fleeced or spending, loads of money and not getting anywhere with their marketing. So a couple of things we'll look at for that. Number one, a good marketing strategy is something that a good marketing agency should provide for you. So a good marketing strategy is when they've taken a look at all of the things that I just showed you in terms of your stats and analytics. They put all of that together and they say, hey, here is what you should be doing. Here are the things that could help you, and they're working with you in collaboration. So they're asking you, well, if you've sold 200 doors in the last 3 months, how many do you want to sell in the next 3 months? So based on the numbers that you tell them, they're then going to get back to you and start suggesting what strategies would work with that. And all strategies require constant tweaking. So nothing ever remains the same on the internet. Things are always changing, and so you always want to be tweaking, and you want a marketing agency that's going to understand that and do that. And of course, they always want to be reporting back to you. You don't want it to be in a black hole where you're putting a lot of money in, but you're not seeing by any kind of reporting what that investment is. And of course, you want a good return on your investment. So marketing, though, we do need to understand is not an exact science. Unlike phantom screens, when you get a screen, you install a screen, you walk away and there's still a screen there. It's an exact science. It always works, and you can always see it, and there's no question about it. Marketing is really, really crazy. This is no excuse for a marketer not to do well, but marketing is difficult. It's changing all the time. Google's constantly changing their algorithms. There's new social media platforms coming on. Some social media platforms are great for certain things and not for others, and then that changes. So there's a lot of experimentation and testing that really needs to happen for them to understand how your market's going to react to you, and really what the best thing is. So you really need to understand that when you are working with a marketing agency, or even when you're doing it yourself, you need to give it some time for it to work. A lot of people will jump in and say, hey, we worked for a month with an agency, or we did it ourselves, and there were no results. We didn't see anything. And that's because you really need to give it some time and allow things to work out. So marketing agencies are a bit like relationships. When you go on the first date, you're still getting to know each other, and you're still getting to understand how each other works. And after a few months of working together and them understanding what works for you, then you can start seeing those results. But the biggest then question that comes after that is, well, what is a reasonable budget? Like, what should I be spending on these sorts of things? And again, it does is very much based on what it is that you want to get out of it. So, and that is again determined on, how much of an increase in sales that you want to do, what's reasonable for you on that. So there's a whole variety of different budgets that you can put towards it. But we want to just kind of go with the experience that we've come up with in working with Phantom Screens and working with different distributors in terms of what we would suggest to you as a good budget. And just before I jump into that, though, just so you understand how, if you're going to go the marketing agency route, how it works. With a marketing agency, you do spend a fair amount of money with them, and there's a reason for that. They've got setup fees, management fees, there's media spends that are going on. So we're going to jump into a different webinar so that we can understand it a little bit more fully. But just really generally overall here, there's that setup fee where they're creating accounts for you, whether it's for Google AdWords or PPC, Facebook ads. There's also usually a management fee. And if you're like me, I don't like management fees, but when it comes to our marketing agency, that's the fee that goes towards them figuring out what the strategy should be, all of the learning that they're doing, the tweaking of that particular strategy, and then reporting back to you. So there's a fair amount of time that actually goes into them figuring out what the best thing is to do for you, and then actually executing that. And then there's something called the media spend. And the media spend is, and Roy just asked, what is PPC? And I'm glad you asked that. Again, really quickly, we'll get into this more on another webinar, but PPC is called pay per click. And what that means is, often when you've been searching for something online and you do a search for TV sets and you see an ad for, let's say, Staples or Best Buy show up, when you click on that ad, that costs that company money. So pay per click, every time you click on that ad, they pay a little bit of money for that. And there's ways to make sure that, if you click on it 15 or 30 times, that, they're not going to be overcharged for that. So, don't go to your competitors and click on all their ads so you use up all of their money. You don't want to do that. But that PPC, that pay per click, that's something that you put a certain amount of money towards. So for instance, if the management fee is, let's say, $400 for the month, your media spend might be $500 or $1,000. What that means is that the more money that's in that media spend, the more that they're actually able to do for you. So when you think of putting all of these things together, this is where these fees come from. So the question is, of course, so what's a reasonable monthly budget? Is it 500, 1,000, 5,000, more than 5,000? Again, it depends, but just sort of as a general rule, we know from our experience, if you just want to start off with about $500, you're really not going to get very far. You're guessing, you really have no idea what the strategy should be. The learning curve is really slow because with $500, you can't really do a whole lot. There's no experimentation going on. If you move it to about $1,000 where it's helping, still a lot of guessing going on. The learning starting to increase, and there's a little bit more experimentation going on to figure out what's really going to work for you and your market. $2,000, yeah, you got a good strategy you can start sorting out. There's a lot of testing, a lot of experimentation, and you're starting to get a lot of good insights from that. And of course, as you go up 3,000 and 5,000, there's more and more that you can do. But a lot of you, as you understand, like, wow, I can't even imagine spending $3,000 or $5,000 because I have no idea what it's going to do for me. And we totally get that, and we totally understand that. And that's a huge barrier for a lot of distributors because they don't want to put that kind of money in without knowing what it's going to do for them. But I'll be very honest with you, fortunately, unless you really jump in and do try it, you aren't really going to see that return on your investment. And if you're starting off on some of these lower amounts, you could be spending these lower amounts, but you're also not really getting much back for it. So again, this is just in our experience. We do find that people that are working with somewhere between $2,000 to $3,000 per month, you are starting to see those results. If you want to start with a little bit less, just so that you can get your feet wet and start to understand how it all works, then by all means do that, but really understand that you probably aren't going to see a lot from that. So don't get discouraged. Do understand that when you are putting a little bit more money in, you are seeing those results. So we can get you to, or want you to consider about $2,000 per month. Again, it seems like a lot, but if you are getting a return on that investment after about 6 months or so, then it's worth putting in the money when you are seeing the money come back. So that's what our recommendation is, and that's just because of what we've seen over and over and over and over again. So we just want to be transparent with you and sort of set that expectation. Again, because of our network of marketing agencies that we do work with, we have had the experience of weeding out the ones that we just don't feel we're providing good value for the different businesses we work with. So we would love to talk with you based on what your market or what your budget is. Some marketing agencies that would potentially be a good match for you. So we can talk about that again if you want to contact me. So that's all I want to cover today. I told you and I promised you with all my heart that it would only be 30 minutes, and I have absolutely lied because it wasn't, and it was much longer, but we're pretty close. Just so you know, for the next upcoming webinars, we are going to be dwelling more into the actual marketing services themselves. So search engine marketing, SEO, search engine optimization. We're going to dig more into PPC, what that's all about. Based on online advertising, we're going to jump into content marketing, which is about the content that's on your website and using social media. And we're always going to talk about, should you do it yourself or whether you should work with a marketing agency. So those are always things that are meaningful conversations as we go along. So if anything, I hope that you got that good marketing education equals happy face, because if you have a happy face, that means that you should be having good sales as a result of that. And we hope that this was helpful for you. If you do have any questions about what we've gone over today, feel free to start asking those questions in the chat area, and I'll start answering any of those questions that come up now. And again, my name is Rob. This is my email address, and this is the phone number where you can call me. And of course, if you want to learn a little bit more about the My Web program that we do for Phantom, then you can reach that at phantom.robinhoodtech.com. So I'm going to leave that up and then see if any more questions come in. So any questions from anyone? I'm just going to scroll through the questions that I may have missed before. All right, and no questions coming up. So that means that I was terrible or fantastic. I'm not sure which of the two. Oh yeah, okay, great question here. So can we download this? Actually, yeah, I've been recording this, and I am going to post it in a place where you can watch it. So you should see an email about that in the next few days. And so you can review this at your leisure, whether during the day or evening or whatever you feel most comfortable with, or at night if it helps you fall asleep, whichever works best for you. And good. So someone's mentioned here that there's a lot of info and vocabulary lingo that they're not really familiar with. Yes, so we want to break some of that down. This today was a bit of an introduction to some of that. So do know that we're going to be breaking down a lot of that lingo and that terminology as we go through some of the other webinars. All right, so another question here is what are the advantages to having our own website over the corporate website? So great question. The corporate website is really fantastic. I don't think you saw in the search results that I showed you when I did retractable screens. Also, the phantomscreens.com website was appearing down at the bottom there. So that's good. Some of the advantages, though, is that when you have your own website, it does tend to appear a little bit better locally. So phantomscreens.com is great in terms of the marketing that they do, and they actually do a great job in showing up locally. And by locally, I mean that when you're doing retractable screens in your area, is phantomscreens.com showing up? In some cases, it's great. In some cases, it's not as good. But you have to understand it's difficult to have one corporate website show up everywhere that it's ever searched for. So in a sense, Phantom head office really does need for you to be able to have individual websites so that you're really pushing and promoting your local presence, because Google is going to prefer your local website over the Phantom Screens corporate website in a lot of cases. So if you do have your own website, then chances are that it may be appearing higher than phantomscreens.com, not always, but that chances are that it may be doing that. And also, when someone goes to phantomscreens.com, they do have to take the time to plug in your zip code or your postal code, and that might slow people down a little bit. If you have a website that's right there that they can call immediately or request a quote immediately, that's one less step for them to do, and that should be able to capture those leads a little bit faster. So how's that for an answer? So there's advantages to both, but definitely having your own website is going to help you with your local search results. Another question here is, when I search retractable screens, I come up first but do not come up on generic search. Okay, not exactly sure what the question is there. So when you do a search for retractable screens, you come up first, which is great, but not so much on a generic search. Yeah, so if you get a chance, just fill that out for me a little bit more in terms of what you mean by generic search, and let's see if I can answer that. Another question here is, does the amount you spend per month influence by core household? So there's a lot of factors on what you would spend per month, and obviously knowing your demographics and knowing what the people in your particular area, what their demographics are, what their spend is, that sort of thing. So that would definitely help in terms of understanding what you may pay for your marketing. But again, because marketing, there's a lot of testing and experimentation that's going on. It really depends. So it's a little bit hard for me to answer that, because the job of the marketing agency is to figure out what's going to work best in your particular area based on your demographics. So having statistics, for instance, about your core household and knowing a little bit more about them will help inform your marketing agency, or whether you're doing it yourself, on what the best approach would be. So that may or may not have an effect on your budget. And the marketing agency would be good to confirm that with. William's asking, when's the next webinar date time? So it's going to be in 2 months from now. Date is TBD, and the time is going to be around 2 p.m. EST. Sorry for all the acronyms there. And we'll email you within the next month to let you know when that one is coming up. Mentioning here, some of the terms are way over my head. Again, I apologize for that. With this introductory webinar, it's hard not to hit some of those terms right away, but as I said, we're going to unpack those more in some of the other webinars. So we definitely look forward to having you back for those, so that we can unpack those terms for you. So like I said, it's a little bit confusing, a little bit crazy, and 30 minutes isn't enough time to unpack it all. But hopefully today that you did grab a few things that entice you to want to come back and learn a little bit more. Just reading some more questions here. Okay, so Bob's mentioning I come up on Google Ads first, but not the first page under the ads. So I come up on Google Ads first, but not on the first page under the ads. Okay, so yeah, so that's a great question. So what that means is you are doing ads, which means you are doing paying for those ads, which is great, and you are showing up first in those ads. So because you are paying for them, that's part of the reason why you are showing up where you are. And then on the organic side, you're not showing up as high as you should be showing up or could be showing up. So that's something where we would want to investigate your SEO, so your search engine optimization, and see why that might be the case. And there's a couple of reasons why that's happening. It could be a lot of competition in your area. It could be that there's things on the SEO that we need to improve and take a look at. And so, Bob, we should definitely do an OPA with you, an online presence analysis, and take a look at that and then see if there's some of the things that we can correct, or if there's things that we just can't based on the number of or the amount of competition in your area, where you might need to pay a little bit more for some additional SEO. Then that might be something to look at. So yeah, let's look at that together when we do the OPA. So contact me about the OPA. Are your fees in Canadian dollars, US dollars? Our fees are in US dollars. Good question. And then a question here about any way to speed up the timeline. So I'm assuming you're talking about the webinars. We'll talk about that actually. We didn't want to overload you with having too many webinars too quickly. So we'll talk with head office and see if they want them a little bit faster. We can see if that might be the case. We can maybe do one every month or every 6 weeks or so, and so you have a little bit better understanding of this information a little bit quicker. Okay, so while I'm waiting for anything else to come in, just wanted to say thank you all for joining us today. Again, a lot of information in a very short period of time, but we're excited that you're taking the time to learn this. And as I said, as we go through all of the other webinars, we are going to be able to unpack more of this information moving forward and help you understand online marketing and some of the marketing services that you should be considering, or having a marketing agency do it. So, all right, looks like there's no more questions coming in. So I'm going to end the webinar for today. Again, as I said, we're going to send out an email to let you know when the next one is. And we look forward to chatting with you again soon. Have a great rest of your day. Take care now.